And back to our breaking news from Halifax, Nova Scotia, the trial of a man accused of murdering an off-duty police officer. Christopher Garnier has been found guilty of second-degree murder, and the jury also found Garnier guilty of improperly interfering with human remains. Garnier was accused of punching and strangling off-duty police officer Catherine Campbell and using a compost bin to dump her body in downtown Halifax on September 11th, 2015. CTV's Sarah Ritchie joins us now from outside the courthouse. Sarah, let's begin with what the reaction was from inside the courtroom.
Well, Erin, as you can probably imagine, the reaction inside the courtroom was extremely emotional on both sides. Members of Catherine Campbell's family were celebrating, they were crying, they were very emotional about the verdict. Members of Christopher Garnier's family, who have been here through the trial as well, also a lot of tears on that side, in particular from his girlfriend, Brittany Francis, who's been here holding his hand every single day as he's come in and out of court. She broke down into tears. I saw him as he was whisked back into court to take a long look at her as he sat down. It's obviously a very emotional day for two families here in Halifax with this sentencing.
And you were able to hear about what both the Crown and the defense had to say. Take us through the Crown's argument first.
Certainly, yeah, the Crown had an awful lot of evidence to present in this case. This case began back on November the 20th. They brought forward a lot of video evidence. They brought forward testimony from a number of police officers. So in essence, the story that they told to the jury was this. Christopher Garnier and Catherine Campbell both went to a downtown Halifax bar on the night of September the 10th, the early morning of September the 11th. They met for the first time. They spent several hours there together, left together in a taxi, and they went back to an apartment where Christopher Garnier was spending the night because he'd just broken up with his common-law girlfriend. He was staying at a friend's place. That friend, incidentally, was picked up by police that night and spent the night in a drunk tank. Now, there's video evidence of a lot of this case, which makes it rather unique. So there was evidence brought in to show the pair in the downtown Halifax bar. Then there was evidence of them leaving and hailing that taxi. But then there's about a 45-minute gap between the time that they are dropped off at that McCully Street apartment in downtown Halifax to the time that Christopher Garnier is picked up again on video camera, on surveillance camera, just outside the apartment. He fetches a green bin, and then he wheels that green bin down a Halifax street. He's then picked up later near the McDonald Bridge, for anyone who's familiar with Halifax, close to the Halifax Harbor, and he can be seen wheeling that green bin around. The Crown alleges that he and Catherine Campbell got home to that apartment. They were in for a very short time before he punched her and then strangled her until he could hear her last breaths. And then he used a mattress to drag her body outside. He put the body into that green bin, wheeled it through downtown Halifax, dumped it in some bushes. Then he dumped the green bin in another location. He came back to the apartment and got rid of a number of pieces of evidence, some of which was never even found in this case, including the mattress. And then he went to sleep. So that was the Crown's case. They allege that Christopher Garnier intended to kill Catherine Campbell. Obviously, the jury has agreed that they proved that case beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense in this case didn't argue with anything that was caught on video. They did say Christopher Garnier was on video dragging that green bin through Halifax that morning. But what they said that differed from the Crown's case was just that 45 minutes, that key time when the pair was in the McCully Street apartment. They say that Christopher Garnier and Catherine Campbell went back to the apartment. She offered to engage in rough sex, and that Christopher Garnier was going on along with that when an accident happened and she was killed by accident. They say that then he was in a dissociative state, he wasn't thinking clearly, and he doesn't remember the entire period of time from when Catherine Campbell was killed to the next morning, save just a few glimpses. So their case was that Christopher Garnier was not in control of his actions from the time that Catherine Campbell died accidentally. Obviously, that was not what the jury agreed with, Erin.
As they said, he is now convicted of second-degree murder in that case. CTV's Sarah Ritchie for us from Halifax. Thank you so much for this.